Hey y'all. So as you know, I've been talking a little bit about competition prep and things that are important when considering competition or any type of physique athletics. And I got a really good question on Instagram I wanted to dive in a little bit more. And that is, what are some of the methods, do's and don'ts when it comes to a peak week? So for people who aren't as familiar with bodybuilding, competition, training, the peak week is considered that week before show where you're really dialing in a person's physique. You're going to make them harder, drier, tighter, so that Saturday usually when they step on stage, they're gonna look perfect, in their prime, picture worthy, and usually that's the only day that it lasts. So what do you do for a peak week? Well, I will just tell you that these are my personal experiences as an athlete, as well as a coach, and different perspectives that I've heard other coaches use as well. And as always, these are my opinions. You are welcome to appreciate them, to agree, disagree. It's up to you. So rule number one, I think when it comes to a peak week is you need to be as consistent as possible with your diet, with your training, your cardio, and your sleep. Those variables, if any one of those changes, even by like a minuscule amount, it can throw your body off. Now, adding on to that, I forgot to mention, supplementation. You are not going to want to manipulate any type of performance enhancers, any type of fat burners, unless an extreme precaution happens. So, as I was saying, usually when you're working with a coach, you're working with them through the duration of a prep. Average prep is about 14 weeks in length. Some are longer, towards 16 to 18 weeks. Some are shorter, around 12 weeks. Depending on that person, you're probably going to be cycling the same substances throughout, and most of the time you're going to have an 8-week cycle length going into the week, or depending on if you're using other compounds like T3, Clen, might be a little bit longer or shorter. Now, like I was saying, even on peak week, you do not want to change those variables. If you're doing a natural federation, those obviously would be tested, so that's a whole nother discussion today. But everything from your food to your sleep to your training to your supplements should not change unless extreme circumstance. One of the don'ts that I have personally not done, but I've seen done wrong a lot of times, is adding in diuretics. I feel like if you don't know how to use a diuretic in the body and manipulate your water accordingly with the diuretic, you usually get more harm than good out of the diuretic. Even if it's a natural, like water out pill, dandelion root, something of that nature, yes, it will help flush the water out of your system, but when you're going on a stage, you need to have some type of nutrient movement through those muscles. And that's where your sodium and your water are important. So another don't for me is I don't cut sodium, ever. For myself, for any clients, sodium is super important for that nutrient uptake, to getting that full muscle body look in all parts of your physique on stage. Now, I might have digressed a little bit, but overall, like I said, there's 4 things that you should not manipulate. When you are getting closer to show day, you will want to change your water. Why? Well, when you have subcutaneous water, you're not going to look as dry. So usually, depending on the person and what division you're doing, if you're male, female, you're going to be tapering and depleting your water, sometimes 4 days out, usually 2 days out from the show is where you start. And depending on your body, what compounds you're doing, if you're natural, and how you look on show day, you may not have any water. You might do a cup of coffee in the morning. Some people have water all day. They look great. They still win their class, etc. All those variables dependent upon the athlete. So you might, and you will, water deplete. Now, I also believe that you're going to want to have electrolytes and that water during peak week, so we actually increase your water earlier in the week, and then we drop it down later, and then immediately after show that evening, try and add some electrolytes, sometimes coconut water, maybe it's Pedialyte, and then that next day following show, we'll talk a little bit about what that regimen looks like. So, like I said, those are the things when it comes to the peak week that are super important. And I also feel like your training, you are not gonna modify unless absolutely necessary. I know when it comes to females and males, you want to modify your leg training, and usually you only train legs once, maybe twice the week of peak week. I know for myself, it's normally like 4 days, 5 days out from the show so that they can be well rested. Especially in the wellness category or in a bodybuilding division, you need to make sure your legs are rested for posing, that they're recovered fully. Cardio, it's a whole nother animal. And once again, depends on the athlete. Everything is dependent upon that individual person, in my opinion. You might have cardio up until the day before show. I would say 99% of the time you're not going to do cardio the morning of your show. That's easy. The day before, depending on your division, what you've been eating to carb up, things like that, you might be taking some light walks, maybe just like a 20-minute walk on the treadmill, something very low intensity. The first part of the week, you're probably gonna be doing your cardio as normal, and we'll manipulate that as you get closer and closer to the stage day. I normally do check-ins at least once a day during peak week because your body can change so quickly. And then as you get closer to show, depending on if it's a local show or a national level competition, multiple updates throughout the day, just so that I know what's going on. And like I said, the food is probably going to stay the same unless, you know, you need to get a carb up, which happens usually the night before, the day before the show, and then if you're a bodybuilder, sometimes it's 2 days before. I personally don't see as much benefit from carving up the day of show. And there's a few reasons because of that. I think if you aren't following like a strict a meal plan, if you're following a macro plan, which I personally don't prefer for competition athletes, especially peak week, there's too many variables that can change. And on show day, you want to make your body look as crisp as possible. It's very easy to fill someone out too far that they're going to look watery or flat on stage. I myself have experienced it. Seen several people experience it because they ate too much when they thought, well, I need to look fuller. At the end of the day, you're going to be judged on your overall muscle look and leanness. Plain and simple. If you have the structure, if you have the shape that they're looking for in that division, and you're coming in very conditioned, you're probably going to place very well. If you're not conditioned, that's where usually you're going to fall further down the line in the lineup. Now, one thing I want everyone to consider when it comes to a peak week is that leading up through the peak week, you need to take travel into consideration. Are you driving to the venue? Are you flying? Are you staying at the host hotel? Are you staying in another hotel? Where are you getting your makeup done? Where are you getting your hair done? Where are you getting your tan done? All these things can stress out your body. And if there's one thing I've learned through Nutrition Dynamic and my studies on inflammation in the body, just like that, your body can change. So you want to be very mindful, and I'm always organized anyways, trying to be as prepared as possible. I will do the same thing with my clients. Ask the details, put together kind of an agenda so that I know, make sure that they're doing everything they need to and won't get stressed out because the body can get overstressed. I do have a few little tips that I use and tricks for competitors during that time for stress management. But like I said, those are for my athletes. But if you're interested in coaching, please do reach out. You can send me an email. We can set up something to talk about it. But either way, that's kind of what it looks like for leading up to show day. On show day, like I said, depending on the person, usually you might have a little bit of water, you might have coffee with one meal, usually like 2 meals before stepping on prejudging. And then after prejudging, honestly, I'm not a big fan of doing the whole burger and fries thing. Really depends on the person. Usually you're gonna want some carbs and protein. That's about it, keep it simple. And then eat maybe another meal before the night show. Pump up really depends on the division and the person. I've done things from pickles to doing pre-workout with a touch of water to doing candy, Rice Krispies, you name it. There's a few different methods that I can implement. And then post-show, what I usually recommend to my clients is if there's something you're craving, I want you to enjoy it, but I don't want you to go overboard. And I also want you to pack something for yourself to have in your bag that you can eat immediately getting off stage from finals. Because odds are, if you've picked out a restaurant ahead of time or a certain food type that you want to eat, a lot of places are going to book up fast. If it's a big show and there's a lot of competitors in it or families and friends that have come to the show. So just keep that in mind. It's always good to have that in your backpack along with, like I was mentioning, some type of electrolyte product, and that way you can get rehydrated. Coming out of the show that following week, I try to add some flexibility because I know myself, I've experienced issues with eating disorders, and I've talked about that in some videos, but usually I give you a reverse diet plan, and that week, usually that first week, sometimes 2 weeks, I will let you do in the evening 1 free untracked meal. Now that can be something you eat out, that can be something you cook in, but I want it to be something you don't think about that, oh, it's on the plan. Oh, it has to hit a certain number of carbs, proteins, fats. It needs to be something that you are going to enjoy, something that maybe you're going to go out with family and friends. Maybe you and your significant other are going to cook together. Something that's going to help give you more balance back because you've been dieting for weeks and weeks. So usually, especially females, we crave sweets. So that's where I find it helpful to bake my own healthy sweets that I can implement into my own plan, and that way I'm not going off track a lot and derailing my progress. But those are, I would say, the overarching ideals behind my peak week and what I recommend to my clients as well as any athletes that I talk to and consult with. So once again, if you have any questions, you're interested in competition prep coaching or lifestyle coaching, please do send me an email. And I've got several products right now that I'm using and implementing for myself and for my athletes that have worked great, whether you're in improvement season, lifestyle, or getting ready for a competition. So check out those links below. Thank you for watching, and keep up the great work for whatever goals you have in mind. I know this new year ahead, everybody's looking forward to it, but make sure you finish out this year strong too.